What's your take on all of this?
Well, I think this is an absolute nightmare for Keir Starmer. I'm sure Aggie's kind of eloquently spoken about this. We've just been recording another episode of our podcast. I haven't been listening to your commentary for the past hour.
How very day.
I know. But it seems to me that this Monday was the Great Reset. Monday was the Monday of hope and optimism of what we can do and the 3 new priorities of this government and la. And here we are on Friday and his Deputy Prime Minister, the Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, the Housing Secretary, has gone. And as a result of which we are now seeing a mega reshuffle. And I thought the kind of alarm bells for me rang when they said, Rachel Reeves won't be going anywhere, and you think, oh, so what, everyone else is? And it's looking like it is going to be one of these epic reshuffles that you very rarely see where all the top... And it also has a slight... I mean, it's hard to believe that we're only just over 1 year into this government because it has a slight end of days feel about it, which is ridiculous.
It feels longer because of the up and down of it all, doesn't it? Here's a take on that question of the reset week. Adam says, first day of Reform's party conference, Labour finally setting the news agenda with Rayner and a reshuffle. Ironically, I don't know whether he's joking, I think he is. Ironically, Sir Keir Starmer's phase 2 seems to be going to plan after all.
Yeah, I do think that that is the only silver lining. The small sliver of a silver lining is that you've got Keir Starmer doing the big reshuffle now that probably would have come later in the autumn, and so the reset is happening sooner rather than later, and you're getting it all over and done with in the first week that Parliament is back. The bigger silver lining is that I suspect on today's show, in normal course of events, you'd have been talking an awful lot about Nigel Farage's speech to Reform and the great, kind of possibility that he becomes the next Prime Minister, with yards and yards of attention given to that, a ton of ink being devoted to it in newsprint tomorrow.
He knew he would lose a bit of that, so he went in.
Yeah, but then he's gone in early and hasn't got the news, so he's going to be out of date very quickly once we start, once we find out what Aggie is oohing and ahhing about. Then it's going to make just Farage's speech seem like it was here and gone.
Could this to both of you? Could Keir Starmer, when he came into power, could he have been more imaginative with that cabinet rather than just say, broadly speaking, you keep the jobs you had in the shadow cabinet? Could he have been a bit more imaginative, Aggie?
Yes. I mean, the point I made to you earlier about the fact that he basically mirrored what he had in opposition and brought it into government. Of course, he could have been more imaginative with it. Whether it would have helped, I don't know, because a big criticism of Labour early doors was the fact that they weren't really prepared. As you'll remember, it was blamed a lot on Sue Gray, the former chief of staff, that they weren't really, in some departments, ready to go. So was he to have had a big reshuffle on day one and mix that all about? I doubt that would have helped the preparedness, and that might have made it more difficult. But of course he could have been more imaginative.
I suppose Starmer's counter-argument to that was, and today has undone a lot of that, is that he wanted to project competence, and therefore he wanted to put in place people who knew what they were talking about. So you had a housing secretary who dealt with housing, you had a shadow, the health secretary who's looked at the issues of the health service, and so he wanted to create this technocratic government of people who had sort of degrees of expertise, and therefore he kept people in pretty much the same posts that they had been doing beforehand. I thought that was kind of smart, but events have conspired against him.
Because you say technocratic, but today's events are pure politics, aren't they?
And it also doesn't look like great competence. It doesn't look like, Keir Starmer, he's not kind of setting the political weather. The political weather is being set for him, and he is being buffeted by it. And, do you have a projection of, do you see a man in charge whose hand is firmly on the tiller, who is guiding a direction and steering a path for this government? Or do you kind of get a sense of, oh my God, they're being knocked around, the small boats of rivals being, one example of it?
Which brings us to the deputy leadership contest, because I know this is something that you've been thinking about a lot today, Aggie, what that might do to the government and the party itself. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that, look, if in the normal course of events, the deputy leader of the Labour Party is chosen by the party itself. That means there's going to be an election. That means there's going to be hustings. That means there are going to be people standing against each other, and maybe the left will get their act together and, get it to... That is a nightmare. if you want to show that you're governing this country and that your concerns are the people's concerns, and that yet the Labour Party is picking the fluff out of its belly button, then that ain't a great look.
That's
and
an
people,
image.
Yeah, I know. And people will think, oh my God, I'm sorry, I'm worried about my housing, I'm fed up about illegal immigration, cost of living, la 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 la, and all you bloody lot are doing is worrying about who's going to be the next deputy leader. I don't think it's going to go down well.
I completely agree. And also, how are those candidates going to ingratiate themselves with the Labour membership who are extremely angry with the Starmer project? Presumably, it's going to be a bit of a race to the bottom with extremely senior people in the Labour Party basically saying, I'll hold Keir Starmer to account. He hasn't done this he hasn't done this right on 1, 2, 3, 4 counts. And that is going to be so toxic for the project.
I remember when Blair became leader and John Prescott became the deputy leader, and Prescott came up with this very good metaphor where he said, Tony's driving the train, but I'm the guard who can occasionally just pull the emergency cord to slow us down a bit. If you have, as Aggie describes, a kind of where you have to set up, if you're going to succeed in winning the deputy leadership, you have to set yourself out as being in opposition to Keir Starmer, then you're trying to take the train in a completely different direction. And that becomes really dangerous for this government.
I completely agree. And I think that is why there are live discussions going on about whether or not there's a way to delay or have a stitch up in some way, just kind of a coronation. We've talked to James Robinson about that too, or whether there's a way to stop it altogether. I mean, I was speaking to Andrew Marr about this. He doesn't think there is a way to stop it altogether. But Richard Bergen, who's a left-wing Labour MP, has sent me a message to say there cannot be a stitch-up. It cannot be a leadership stitch-up. So that is obviously a live discussion going on about what that's going to look like.
Oh, sorry, I'm just...
No, go on. Why
so is it possible that what you do is you have an interim deputy leader, and possession becomes 9/10 of the law? That they do that, you defer the contest, by which time that person has become de facto...
It's time to focus on the people's needs,
Deputy
not the
Prime Minister,
needs,
Deputy Leader, and they they're a shoo-in because you've more or less crowned them as the de facto
Can I throw a
deputy
name
leader.
into this theme? I don't mean a potential deputy leader. I'm just saying that when you're talking about the push and pull at the top of government, Rachel Reeves, there's already push and pull at the top of government, isn't there? Chancellor, Prime Ministers, that relationship is already one of power broking, isn't it?
I think compared to the Blair Brown years, that there is a relationship, there's almost a relationship of too much harmony between Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves. And I think that Keir Starmer is guilty of not taking enough of an interest in what is happening with the economy, and allowing the Treasury to lead, and just not kind of, in his technocratic style, he's delegated responsibility for the Treasury to her. The letterbox at number 10 Downing Street has on it First Lord of the Treasury. The Prime Minister is the First Lord of the Treasury, and therefore, ought to be taking much more of an interest in economic policy. And I think that, the reset, which is only 4 or 5 days old, did bring in, Baroness Shafiq to become that sort of economic voice in number 10 to liaise with the Treasury.
And going back to the Richard Bergen tweet that you got there, if the left of the party starts to really exert itself here about the deputy leadership, we've already seen that the left of the party has shaped policy, or certainly soundings, on Gaza. It seems to me that will be something that could shape this, depending on how they choose to operate.
Definitely. I mean, I think there'll be numerous candidates putting their hats into the ring. I think it is probably more unlikely that you are going to get somebody from the very left of the party winning the deputy leadership contest, just because of the number of MPs you'll need to nominate you and how the party is currently made up, because actually there are a huge number of, they were called stormtroopers, people who were very loyal to Keir Starmer before the election who came in. So I think someone on the very left of the party won't have the numbers. But like Jeremy Corbyn was supposed to do in 2015, it will widen the debate and it will bring all of those conversations, as John is saying, right into the fore and right into everyone's minds, just potentially as conference is about to kick off.
Yeah, I think, this is going to require some party management. The one thing you would say that Keir Starmer has done well, and it's not a huge long list, is that actually internal party management and the people around Keir Starmer have been very good running, maybe too much focus has been on internal party management and isolating the far left and, getting rid of these people and getting rid of that one, or making sure that the NEC is more to your liking.
But might that not cause some residual resentment that comes back to bite you on the bum?
He's still got enough votes, probably, that, that with the NEC and his shadow cabinet and the people around him, they're good at managing. They know how to kind of pull the levers in the party and make things work. It's pulling the levers in government and make things work that they're having more trouble with.
Yeah.